I would say my kryptonite has been my IQ. Being, the smarty pants engineer, that kind of thing. Smart people, unfortunately, don't get a whole lot done because we spend most of our time trying to figure stuff out. We spend most of our time trying to perfect things, right? Make it a little more efficient. And we don't spend enough time just freaking taking action, just freaking starting dirty. So I learned how to start dirty. That was the key. When I just started, forget about being perfect. Here's the cool thing. If you start dirty, that doesn't mean you have to stay dirty. When I heard that, it just clicked. I was like, wait a minute. I can start and I can make it better along the way. Revelation. that was it. That was the light bulb. It was like, F this, I'm starting. And then off to the races I was. So I love helping people get their first clients. That's one of my favorite things because that's the best way to start dirty. Like, hey, yeah, you need your website, you need this, you need that. Okay, great. Let's get your first client first. Let's just go for it. Because you can get one client, you can get 10. If you get 10, you can get 100. If you can get 100, you can get 10,000. There's no difference. It's just rinse and repeat.
Heroes are an inspiring group of people. Every one of them, from the larger-than-life comic book heroes you see on the big silver screen, to everyday heroes that let us live the privileged lives we do. Every hero has a story to tell, from the doctor saving lives at your local hospital, to the war veteran down the street who risked his life for our freedom, to the police officers and the firefighters who risk their safety to ensure ours. Every hero is special and every story worth telling. But there is one class of heroes that I think is often ignored. The entrepreneur, the creator, the producer. The ones who look at the problems in this world and think to themselves, you know what? I can fix that. I can help people. I can make a difference. Then they go out and do exactly that by creating a new product or introducing a new service. Some go on to change the world. Others make a world of difference to their customers. Welcome to The Hero Show. Join us as we pull back the masks on the world's finest heropreneurs and learn the secrets to their powers, their success, and their influence, so you can use those secrets to attract more sales, make more money, and experience more freedom in your business. I'm your host, Richard Matthews, and we are on in 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome back to The Hero Show. My name is Richard Matthews, and today I have the pleasure of having on the line Josh Zepess. Josh, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. So, where are you calling in from today?
I'm in Orlando, Florida right now.
You know what's fun about that? I was just in Orlando, Florida, like 3 weeks ago. And we just drove all the way across the country to California, which is where my family is for the holidays.
Nice. That's a good drive. Let me tell you, I've made that drive. I used to live in Central Oregon, so we made the move to Florida, and that was a drive with 3 cats. My wife and 3
Yeah.
cats.
So we did it. We did it with my wife and our 60-pound poodle and 4 kids in the RV, this is actually my RV, my back bedroom office. So you can almost
Oh,
see
nice.
the thing. Yeah. So we travel full time. For my audience keeps up with where we're at. But anyways, the my shoulders are all sore from lots of steering for the last 5
Yeah,
days, driving every day.
it's a good workout for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I want to do real quick is just do a very brief introduction for my audience who may not know you, and then we'll just dive into your story. So, Josh, you have a company called the Identity Archaeologist, um, and what you do is basically, it says in a world where dreams are crushed, souls are forgotten, and rust never sleeps. The Identity Archaeologist is on a mission to ensure talented solopreneurs turn every business first impression into a second impression where the sales happen, by raising their ROC, which is return on conversation, so they can profit more without grinding more. So with that introduction, why don't you tell me a little bit about what it is that you do, who you serve, and what you do for them?
Absolutely. And by the way, it's an honor to be here. I'm so happy to share. And like we were talking about before, nothing's off limits. So let's have a real honest, open conversation. This is exciting. So I'm on a mission. Really, my mission is all about bringing humanity back to business. I'm trying to get rid of professionalism. I don't think we need to be one person in business and a different person in our personal lives. Because if we're 2 different
Yeah.
people, then one of them has to be a lie. And I don't think that's profitable. And it's also a very difficult way just to live. It's a very stressful way to
Yeah.
live. So everything I do is focused on that. Everything I do when I help create personal brands, when I help people present better, network better, get their message out to the world in an authentic, genuine, and powerfully persuasive way. That's what drives me. That's why I do what I do. And the identity archaeologist is just my, it's how I do it. That's all that is.
Yeah.
People are like, Josh, what does this identity archaeologist mean? Really? You want to be honest? It means I have no competition. In business, that's pretty cool, you have to admit. But
Yeah.
really, it's how I take my genius, my superpower, and I apply it to a commodity called personal branding. So that's really where
Yeah.
that
I
came
have.
from. I didn't just make it up. It came from that specifically.
That's actually where our the hero show and the hero brand and everything comes from. It's the same kind of thing, right? Because we talk about building a heroic brand, which is the same thing as an
Yes,
identity archaeologist, and it allows you to create a category of one by
that's
having
it.
your unique way of talking about how you solve problems. Because you have the ability to bring your perspective and your story to bear on the problem you're helping someone solve, which is something nobody else can do, right? Only you can
Yeah.
bring your perspective to bear on the problem.
And that's a good point. Let's go ahead and bust that myth right now for all your entrepreneurs listening or all people that are thinking of getting into entrepreneurship. Let's bust this myth because there's a myth out there that they tell you in school about competition. There's no such thing
Yeah.
as interpersonal competition because nobody can do what I do the way I do it. I am unique. I cannot be copied. You, Richard, you can't be copied. No one in this audience can be copied. So the moment you start thinking, I don't know if I should do this because there's so many other people doing it. No such thing. Stop that.
Yeah.
That talk is false. It's a myth. You, the way you do what you do is so unique. Nobody else can copy it. There's no competition. Don't worry about that. The only competition that exists is internal. It's
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
yourself. It's getting
I've
that identity up, getting that belief internal. So just want to throw
I've
that
had
out there.
that
Make sure everyone got
had that
that.
conversation a number of times with clients and with my wife and with other people. Is that the people who don't want to buy from you aren't your customers, and that's okay because
Yeah,
there's plenty of people who are, right? And
that's right.
for them, no one else is going to do.
Exactly.
Magic is
Exactly.
just finding the right people, finding the people who perfectly match with what it is that you can offer them.
Yeah, and even a step before that, the real magic is finding yourself, getting clarity on exactly why you exist, and then it becomes obvious to everyone else. See, you can't help anyone else understand what you do until you really understand what you do. It's the energy behind it. It's your confidence and your conviction that lets people know what you do, not so much the words.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about how you got into this game of personal branding and helping people get authentic about what they do, right? And we talk on this show, every good comic book hero has an origin story, and it's the
That's
thing that
right.
helped them turn into the hero they are today. And we want to hear that story. Were you born a hero? Were you bit by a radioactive spider that made you get into personal branding and archaeology? Or did you start in a job and move over? Basically, where did you come from that brought you here?
Excellent question. I'll give you the not the short version, but the medium size. So I grew up as a soldier. Seriously, I
Okay.
grew up as a soldier. I was the good soldier. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I did every single thing I was told to do. What I was bit by? I was bit by the mediocrity bug. I was
Oh,
bit
there
by
you
the
go.
comfort zone bug. I just thought I'll do what I'm told. And so I went to school. I got grades. I'm not gonna say good grades, but I got grades. I got multiple degrees. I went into corporate America
They
as
gave you
this
grades.
shy, yeah, exactly. I was a shy, negative, skeptical, introverted engineer for 20 years, and I climbed the ladder. By the way, I was successful in corporate America. Multi six figure by the end of my career, manager, parking space, stock options, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then one day, everything I thought was right wasn't so right. I wasn't as happy as I wanted to be. I wasn't as wealthy as I needed to be, and I wasn't free. And that was the biggest thing for me. Freedom is my favorite F word.
Yeah.
Back then, I had a different favorite F word. Your audience can figure that one out. Uh, and I knew something. There's a point in life when you start seeing the code in the matrix, you start seeing the
Yeah.
glitches, and you're like, I
Yeah.
can't unsee it now. I can't not see it. So I got some wake up calls and I was like, I got to escape. I got to get out. So I did. I escaped into the financial industry. I escaped into entrepreneurship in the gym industry. I owned a 20,000 square foot gym out in Central Oregon. And I'm doing all these things to make money. And one day I'm just like, wait a minute, time out, Josh. What is your genius? What are you so good at? What are you better at than everyone else you know? What is your expertise? What are you passionate about? Let's take all these things and then I challenge myself, how can I provide value to the world in a monetizable way? And that's actually where Identity Archaeologist was born. Now I don't work, I
Absolutely.
play. In fact, I
Yeah,
get
yeah.
paid too much to play, to do what I love. And it's a weird feeling because I was always told you're not supposed to love what you do and make money. That was one of those myths I was told growing up. So
And you've changed
I'm
all of
happy to
that.
bust those myths. Yeah,
What's interesting to me is that the big change came over when you started asking yourself better questions, right? And
correct.
the particularly the ones that you started asking is what's my genius, right? What's the one thing I do better than everyone else? And one of the things that, like, we run a couple of small mastermind cohorts with successful entrepreneurs, and one of the things we do to help ourselves and the people who are in our groups take their business to the next level is ask that question specifically, right?
Yeah,
Because a lot of times your business gets stuck at, certain revenue numbers, and the reason is you haven't figured that question out. Is what's your
yeah,
genius and how do you apply your genius to your business? And I know that when I really sat down and started going through that question myself and asking other people, and like went through several weeks of exercise with people trying to figure out, okay, what is my genius, my superpower, as we call it on this show, um, that's when my business exploded. And
yeah.
I'm 5 times bigger now than I was when I when I answered that question the first time.
Exactly. And what's cool is to your point, we all have the right answers. We really do. And I can prove that. I can use an example from when I was doing personal training in the gym industry. People would ask, people say, "What do I need to eat, Josh? What should my diet consist of so I can lose weight?" I said, "Well, you already know that. Why are you asking me? Pizza or salad?" I'll give them a choice. Do you think you should? Oh, I should eat salad. There you go. You already know the right answers. What you're not doing is you're not asking the right questions. The right questions are absolutely everything because we already have the answers, and that's beautiful because we are superheroes. We do have superpowers. But you're right. Getting someone to help you ask the right questions is the key.
Absolutely. So I
Yeah,
think that's actually a really good transition into talking about what your superpower is, what your answer to that question was, right? And every iconic superhero has a superpower, whether that's a fancy flying suit made by their genius intellect or the ability to call down thunder from the sky, or super strength. Heroes have what I call a zone of genius, right? Which is either a skill or a set of skills that you were born with or developed over time that'll really allow you or set you apart from everyone else, right? They allow you to help
yeah,
your people slay their villains and come out on top in their journeys. And the way I like to frame it for people is if you look at all the skills that you've developed over your life, there's probably a common thread that ties all of them together. And that common thread, the thing that's below the surface, that's where you find your zone of genius, your superpower. So, what do you think your superpower is?
Oh, I'm very certain of what it is. At least some of my superpowers. What I'm very, very good at is, and what I excel at is I asking the right questions. I'm very good at digging very deep into a person through all the crud and crust and crap and conditioning and all the BS we're told about, oh, honey, there's no money in that, or just obey the rules and everything will work out. All that BS we're told growing up about
We'll get
why
a
we
good
shouldn't
job,
shine our
get great
greatness.
grades.
Yeah, exactly. Keep your head down. Otherwise, if you stick your head up, it might get chopped off. All that BS. So I'm really good at digging past that and finding someone's treasure, bringing it to the surface, right? We bring it to the surface, to the light of day. We dust off all that crap and conditioning, and then we refine it and polish it into a message that just shines for thousands of miles. People come from thousands of miles to watch your treasure shine. That's what I'm really good at. So people have all this stuff in their head, right? They got confusion and fear and haziness and I think I want to do this and I'm not sure and I'm doubting myself here. I could take all that complexity and simplify it into a very digestible message, into an identity and into the confidence and conviction to shine forever. That's what I do. And that's what I do now in business and in life.
Okay, so I've got at least 3 questions about that. The first one
Yes.
is what essentially how do you do that with someone? How do you help someone discover their value?
It's a very personal process. I basically have to create a very safe space. We get vulnerable with each other, and it's a one-on-one. I do concierge consulting. This is not something where you go into a workbook and you're filling out what is your mission and what is your vision and what. No, no, no. This is me interviewing. This is me pulling it out, and then I go offline and I create the brand assets. So it's a very personal process, uh, and that's why I'm very picky on who I work with. It's got to be someone willing to really, they're ready to take a stand in life. They're, because all superheroes need a stand. All superheroes have to stand for something, or stand against something.
Hmm.
When someone's at that point and they're like, I'm just sick and tired of being nothing. I'm tired of mediocrity. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of being shy, Josh. When I get that feeling, I can work with that person. And the first step of the process is me digging deep and interviewing, digging with questions.
So the next obvious sort of question on that is, if that's how you do it, how do you take someone's value and their personality and their mission and then translate that into a brand for a company?
I'm going to give you the real answer, and then I can give you a different one if you want. The real answer is I have no freaking idea. That's why it's
Okay.
my genius. No, seriously,
Yeah, no,
I
that
do it.
makes perfect sense.
I can't explain it. Like how does Michael Jordan close his eyes and hit every shot? I don't know. He doesn't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
he practices. Yes, and of course I do tons of personal development, tons of professional development. But how do I take that and create that message? How does stuff just? I have an antenna. That's how I look at it. I have an antenna sticking out of my head, and I get these messages from the universe. They just come out. It's easy for me. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to try to do it. I just do it. So
So
I don't know if
I
that's
think
the
that's
answer you're
actually
looking for, but
no,
I
that's a really important answer, because one of the
good.
things we talk about all the time, again with my clients, and I've talked about this, I talk about this message with my kids all the time, is that the things that you think are easy is where your genius is.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
if it just comes natural to you, like my wife, for instance, she does things with cakes and with art and things that just blow my mind. And she's like, what do you mean? It's easy. And I'm like, it's not easy. It's easy for you.
Correct.
And because it's easy for you, that's where your superpowers lie.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think that's an important and very honest answer for people to hear.
Yep. Yep. But as a result too, it's my responsibility to share that gift. And I think when we don't share our gifts, when we don't take what's easy for us and we don't share it with other people that don't find it quite as easy, that's like a crime against humanity. That's what I call that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's the key. The
So
key is helping people realize they have a responsibility to share that genius that they have.
so my last question on that is when you have your personal brand, right? So something like my, richardmatthews.me is like my personal brand, the hero show, and my mission is to sort of help change the conversation people have about entrepreneurship. And because we're often culturally drugged down into thinking entrepreneurs are the villains, and like literally every movie you watch, the
Yeah.
villain is always some form of entrepreneur who is pouring the metaphorical oil on ducks in exchange for the dollar, right? And I've always hated that message, so that's what this show exists for. But that's like a personal brand and a personal thing. And when you translate into larger companies, where you have maybe a CEO or a board of directors who are looking to build their brand, how does this same sort of process apply when you're talking about a CEO or a C-level team that is looking to build a brand for their company?
Yeah, excellent question. Most of my work is with people themselves. So I do work with, let's say I work with the CEO, but it's not to create the company brand. There's lots of agencies out there and lots of people that will take this company, this non-personal thing, and that you
Yeah.
can brand it, and that's fine. I tend to work with the person because even under a company umbrella, I believe everybody should have their own personal brand. Everyone should have their own thing that they personally stand for that gets them excited to wake up every morning, that is beyond what their company offers. It's kind of their own asset. You see, when someone works for, so say example, I work with someone in insurance, which is very common, insurance agent. They got Allstate behind them or State Farm or, hey,
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
company, wonderful. But that's not your company. That's not what you stand for. What is your brand that you get to own, that you get to that stays with you forever? Because what happens is if we don't have our own personal brand, we borrow. another brand. And then what happens when you borrow something and the company leaves you or you leave the company? You're now nobody. You've completely lost your identity. Now you're lost. And I hate to see that happen to good people. So everyone inside corporate, outside corporate needs to have their own personal brand. They need to have something that they personally believe in, they stand for, and their own value they bring into the world and to their company. So hopefully that makes sense.
It does. It does make sense.
Yeah.
And I was just curious about that, right? Because I run a larger company as well outside of my personal brand on the Hero Show, which is we run a full service podcasting agency, and I've got staff and the whole bit going on
Yeah.
over there. And I was just curious how you approached branding on both of those different things. And it makes a lot of sense that you're talking about how each person has their brand and what they're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And I was
And that
just
brand
have
behind
you
them,
ever
just to,
done
okay.
yeah, I was gonna say, have you ever done like coaching with larger teams to help the team have their own personal brand? Because I would imagine if everyone in the company sort of has that sort of tie into their own identity, that they show up better, and it helps the whole company. Because people, companies are run by the people.
Exactly. And that's a perfect point that we are all human. And so the company brand becomes what I call the credibility. You've heard like people buy from what they like and trust. Likability
Yeah,
comes first, then you have an opportunity to earn their trust. So that brand, the company brand or the team brand, is the credibility. That's the trust. That's the product, the service. But that's not really what people buy. People always buy you first, then they'll buy your
they
product
better.
or service second. And and that's not just for selling external, but that's in the team dynamics. How do you get
Yeah,
along with other team members? If you think this person's after my job or you're taking my responsibility, and then starts to get very contentious because people are borrowing identities. They're not sure of what their role in the team is. So when you get to team dynamics, it's even more important to have your own personal stand, your own personal brand. And this doesn't have to be a huge brand, by the way. I do what I call a micro brand. It's just the very core pieces of your mission, your vision, your values, uh, and then how do you articulate it effectively. So it
absolutely.
basically helps, it gives you the confidence, right? It gives you the confidence to be you. And now all that stress and all the what are they thinking about me and all those weird dynamics and politics that show up in corporations, that stuff goes away. There's no need for
Yeah,
it.
when you realize that nobody else is thinking about you, they're too busy thinking about
Yeah,
themselves.
exactly. They're worried
They
about
don't have
what you're
enough time
thinking
to think.
about them.
Yeah, yeah. They don't have enough time to worry about what you're thinking about because they're worried
Oh,
about what you're thinking about them.
and by the way, in
Uh,
entrepreneurship, if you get for the entrepreneurs listening, because I get entrepreneurs telling me, well, what are they going to think about me, Josh, if I tell? Because I challenge people, I say, what do you really want to tell people? Like coming from a place of good intention, what do you really want to say? No filters. And they're like, Josh, if I say that, what are people going to think about me? I said, hold on a second. You'd be lucky if anyone ever thinks about you again, because the
yeah,
number one killer of business is obscurity. The number two killer is being forgotten. So don't worry about being thought of. Worry about not standing for something. Worry about
yeah.
not telling the truth.
I love that, and I almost want to just like let that sit for a minute because that was really good. Yeah, because worry about getting forgotten is far more important than getting thought about because nobody's going to think about you unless you get out there. I used to tell people way back in the day when I first got started in business, one of the things I was doing was helping people build websites. That was one of the first things I helped with, and it always cracked me up how many business owners would be like, "So if I build a website, my business will grow." And I was like, "No, you're building like you don't just build it and they come. You have to add marketing on top of it. It is a marketing channel, right? Where you can go to bring attention to you. It's like building a business out in the middle of the desert with no roads that go to it. Right? You have to then build the roads to the place that you have built,
Yes,
so that you can and put a billboard out on the freeway so you can get people to divert the traffic. So you gotta talk.
absolutely. And you want to see people's hackles get up? I usually make a list of here's what's not a brand: your logo, your website, your business name, your personality, your good looks. Thank goodness for me. Your title, all these things. People like, I'm branded, Josh. I'm branded. I've got my website, my logo, and my 500 business cards. Which, by the way, business cards. What is this? 1982? What are people doing out there? But I say, you think that's a brand? Oh, no, 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 no. I'm so sorry. That might be a recognition of your brand. That might direct people to your brand, but that is absolutely by themselves not your brand.
Yeah, that's your brand style guide, which you should have.
Yes, absolutely. Those are fine. But a logo is to a brand what paint color is to a house.
Yeah.
That's how I usually describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the way I tell people is you have to build your house. Like, where's the rooms and the kitchen and the floor
Right.
plan and the garage and the whole thing, and like how big's your backyard going to be, and you build all of that, and then you come in and you put your brand style on top of it. You're going to put paint on it, you're
Yes,
going to fill it with furniture, and you're going to make it look like yours. Um, but that's just you have to build the structure first.
absolutely. 100%. The foundation, right? Start with the framework,
Yeah,
the footers, the foundation, and then build from there. Yes.
absolutely.
We're on the same
So
page. This is cool.
yeah, I think we have because we both do a little bit of work in branding, where I used to. At least it's very important stuff. So I want to change gears a little bit and talk about the flip side of your superpower, right? So if your superpower is that ability to get down deep and really understand someone's personal brand, your fatal flaw is the flip side of that coin, right? Just like every Superman has his kryptonite, or Wonder Woman can't remove her bracelets of victory without going mad. You've probably had something that's held you back in your business, right? Something you've struggled with. For me, it was a couple of things. I spent a lot of years struggling with perfectionism, which kept me from ever shipping any products or services because I could always tweak it just a little bit more before I told the market about it, which is not a very profitable way of running a business. And the second thing that I struggled with for a long time was lack of self care, which really presented itself in not having good boundaries with my clients or with my time. And I would, work 18 hours a day and wonder why I didn't get anywhere. And learning how to fix those things was a really important part of growing my company. So hopefully what I want to find out from you is what your flaw was, but more importantly, how have you worked to overcome them so you could still grow?
Fantastic question. And I appreciate what you're sharing your flaws because I could relate to those as well. I would say my kryptonite has been my IQ. Being, the smarty pants engineer, that kind of thing. Smart people, unfortunately, don't get a whole lot done because we spend most of our time trying to figure stuff out. We spend most of our time trying to perfect things, right? Make it a little more
Yeah.
efficient. And we don't spend enough time just fricking taking action, just fricking starting dirty. So I learned how to start dirty. That was the key. When I just started, forget about being perfect. Here's the cool thing. If you start dirty, that doesn't mean you have to stay dirty. When I heard that, it just clicked. I was like, wait a
You're
minute.
like, oh,
I can start and I can make it better along the way.
yeah,
Revelation. that was that was it. That was the light bulb. It was like, F this. I'm starting. And then off to the races I was. So I love helping people get their first client. That's one of my favorite things because that's the best way to start dirty. Like, hey, yeah, you need your website, you need this, you need that. Okay, great. Let's get your first client first. Let's just go for it because you can get
yeah,
one client, you can get 10. If you get 10, you can get 100. If you can get 100, you can get 10,000. There's no
yeah.
difference. It's just
I
rinse and
would
repeat.
I always tell people you shouldn't worry about building a brand or a logo or business cards or any of those things until you've gotten a client to pay for them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
And
100% right. And you're going to learn so much in the process. It might actually change your approach to business. It'll change your approach to your service.
yeah, absolutely. And so there's so much there I want to unpack, but one of them
Okay.
is like one of the things that I do to grow my company, right? And actually the whole growth of the Push Button Podcast brand came out of this exact exercise, which is going to clients and offering them a service for either a discount or for free to test a
Hmm.
market. And to actually build the service. And right, so I actually suggest charging for it, but charging just whatever your costs are, because you want to see people to be invested in whatever you're doing. But I'll go to clients. I'll be like, hey, I have this service I want to test out. Here's what it
Okay.
is. Here's how I think it's going to work. Here's what I think the value would be to you. And if you're willing to invest with me to help me build this, I want to, offer the service to you for cost in exchange for getting some feedback and how I can make this work. And, I've turned that into several six-figure businesses over and over again by following that sort of approach, because
Hmm.
you can get your first couple of clients, which really will solidify what it is you're doing and what you need to do for them, and help you build the systems and
That's right.
everything to make it happen. So I think
It's
it's a
interesting.
great way to approach.
I 100% agree. It's interesting you mentioned that. The call I do right after this at 12:30 my time, I'm launching a pilot program for a new offer I'm doing. And it's the exact same thing. I got people from around the world. It's called the MBA program, Micro Brand Attraction.
Nice.
And this is the pilot for it. And I've got a group of folks that are going through it, and it's a 4-week program, and it actually starts right after I get off this call with you. So I'm full in with it, and they're giving me video testimonials. I said I want honest feedback. I need video testimonials, and in exchange, I'm not going to charge you full price. I'm going to give you this
Yeah.
really crazy, amazing discount actually, and but I want you to be cheerleaders for it if you believe in what we do, which I know they will. It's going to completely change their business. Um, One other thing I'll mention too that I did in the beginning is I actually went to a volunteer service and I volunteered my services to a nonprofit. And in exchange, I got testimonials back, which helped me build my confidence in what I do. It helped me realize that, holy crap, I really have something here. When they came back and like, oh my God, Josh, this is the most amazing thing. Thank you so much for your help. This is going to help us raise money, blah, blah, blah. So now I'm doing a good thing for a good cause, and I'm getting valuable feedback, and I'm getting testimonials. That's how I launched my business originally, just by volunteering.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way to do that. And so the other thing I wanted to pull out of what you said was about the starting dirty, and I wanted to just sort of give you my take on the same sort of thoughts, because this might help someone in the audience. But I have a concept I've been developing in my own head for the last couple of months on helping to defeat my own sort of desire for perfection. And it's
Hmm.
something I call completion stacking, or micro completions. And I've started, instead of looking at my list of things to do as a to-do list, right? Where I have, there's all sorts of things about, you try and have a to-do list and get it done every day, and you can check it off on the calendar and keep the things going, or never put more than 6 items on your to-do list, or make sure that they're always the important things instead of the urgent things. There's all this, I'm not going to call it BS, because they do work for some people, but they've never worked for me on
Yeah.
how to accomplish what you need to accomplish. And what I have noticed is that if you complete something, and just complete something every day, right? So then you can that snowballs really, really fast. And so the way I approach that is I look at, like, what's something that I can take from start to finish all the way right now in whatever time slot I have available, right? I got an hour, I've got 2 hours, I've got all day, right? Whatever it is that I've got this amount of time. What is something in my business? It doesn't really matter where it fits on the important, urgent scale, but I need to be able to take it all the way from start to finish. And so whether that's, getting my inbox to zero, or finishing a process for my business, or doing an onboarding call with a client, doesn't really matter what it is. It's just something that I need to be able to take all the way from start to finish. And there's a few sort of core concepts that I've sort of started building into that, is realizing that you have to build with inefficiency in mind when you do that, which
Hmm.
really helps the perfectionists in your mind, that are in the audience. So as an example, been working on renovating the RV, and had to replace the floor. So the flooring in the RV, and we have several, but we're living in it and traveling. So I can't just rip all the floor out and have no floor for several weeks. I have to work on it in sections. And
Yep.
so I look at, okay, how much of the floor can I finish all the way, right? And so, like, a couple of weeks ago, I pulled out all the floor in the bathroom, all the way up to the next part of the RV, and laid all the new floor down. And then, actually, because there's that transition into the other room, I know I'm going to rip all that other room out eventually, but I don't know when I'm going to be able to get to that. I have to cut tiles and put them into the right spot that I'm going to have to rip out later, right, when I go to finish the transition into the next room. Because in order to complete it and have it usable right now, I have to build that sort of inefficiency into completing it.
Of course.
So you complete the thing, right? And if you translate that into business stuff, it's like you have a campaign, right? And I tell people we do long-term email campaigns, like 6 months long. I'm like, but you can't write 6 months of emails in a day, right? And just finish
Right.
that. It's a mini month process of building campaigns and doing all that stuff. So you take, like, your welcome sequence, and you finish it all the way, right? And you get it started and implemented, and you put it like a puzzle piece into your business. Even if when you build the next thing, which is maybe your evergreen webinar sequence that's going to attach onto the back of your welcome sequence, you maybe have to change the transition email in the last part of your welcome. That's okay. It's okay to have inefficiencies that you're going to have to go back and fix, for the benefit of stacking completions every single day. So anyways, that's how I've approached the same.
100%.
Start dirty is what's something that you can complete right now.
Yep. And what I hear you saying is you're talking about setting expectations, right? As long as you know you're building inefficiencies in, as long as you know that, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you can
Yeah.
build that into your expectation. Because that's what trips us up. What trips us up is when we set unrealistic expectations and then we don't meet them and we kind of let ourselves down. And then our identity goes down a notch. And it's just, we go down this like downward spiral.
Downward spiral.
So
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. And the other thing that's really cool, just on the whole upward spiral thing, is when you're like, hey, I'm going to complete this thing, and then you complete it because you're like, hey, I've got 20 minutes. What's something I can complete in that time? Which is a much
Hmm.
smarter question than what should I do next? Right? To the point of asking better questions. Hey, I've got 20 minutes right now. What's something I can complete? Then you've completed something, and you can implement it and put it into place in your business or in your life or whatever. And you do that over and over again. Man, that not only do those stack together and make for a lot of progress, but you feel really good about it.
You're actually reminding me of the one percenter rule. I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but if you
I
actually just
haven't.
get 1% better every single day for a year, you will be 37x. This is math, not my opinion. You'll be 37 times better by the end of 1 year. That's just 1% better. That's just moving the needle 1%, not 10% in a day, not going for the goal, not the Hail Mary. Just get that extra inch every day. Get that extra inch, and you're going to be so much further past what you expect by the end of the
Yeah.
year or by the end of the month.
It is crazy to me since I started doing that how much progress you can make in a very short amount of time by look and because we travel like at this point I run two very large businesses at this point, with staff all over the world. And I spend less than 4 hours a day, 4 days a week running both of those companies. 10 years ago, I spent 18 hours a day barely surviving on one business.
Yeah,
And it all comes down to that one thing of like, what can I complete next? And because you can make a tremendous amount of progress when you actually complete things in your business. So
that's right. 100%. And the
awesome.
best, what is one of the generals said, once you create a plan, throw it out because it's going to change. That's the other poison of perfectionism. We create this plan and we think it's going to go perfectly, and it doesn't anyway. So why try to do that? Get that thing done. I love that. Just what can I do in 20 minutes? What can I do in 30 minutes? Accomplish something, anything that will move your business
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah,
100%,
even
man.
if it's like, "Hey, I'm gonna sit down and write the headline for this blog post," right? And then write it,
Yeah,
and boom, done, check it off,
done.
and then
There
that's
you
done, you
go.
can move on to the next step,
Exactly.
and then your next 20 minutes. And, that fits in with people who have heard of, like, the Pomodoro technique and other things. There's all sorts of ways you can implement that, but it's for me, just thinking about it in terms of stacking completions has really helped. So maybe that'll help someone who's listening. So my next question for you is I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about your clients, right? The people that you actually work with, and talk about your common enemy, right? So every superhero has what I call an arch nemesis, right? And it's a thing that they constantly have to fight against in their world. And in the business world, it takes on a lot of forms, but generally speaking, it's in your clients, it's a mindset or it's a flaw that you're constantly having to fight to overcome when they, right after they sign on the dotted line. And if you had your magic wand and you just bop them on the head and not have to deal with that anymore, so you could actually get them the results they come to you for, right? What is that common enemy that you regularly find you're struggling with?
Yeah, which one do you want? There's a there's enemies all around. Here's one that comes to mind real quick. Uh, the marketing myth. When I talk to some of these solopreneurs and professionals out there, they're under this myth that marketing is everything. Marketing is the answer. Like it's this global thing, it'll solve all their problems. And I have to
Yeah,
remind them of the truth about marketing. And marketing's great, but you have to understand how it works. Marketing is an amplifier. That's all it is. It's a directional amplifier. It takes a message and it amplifies it, but it's not the message itself. So what I see a lot of folks do is they go and they go market, hey, Josh, I'm doing Facebook ads, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And they're like, but it's not working. I'm like, well, what are you saying? I don't know. Just I'm putting some stuff out there. So what you're telling me is you haven't done the work up front, the branding, the messaging work, and you're amplifying garbage. and you're wondering why it's not working.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's how we're sold. We're sold this idea
Yeah.
that, oh, just if you market it, they will come. Bullshit. Sorry, not true. You actually have to have your message together. You can't be amplifying confusion and garbage. So that's
Well,
one
to be
thing.
fair, you can. It just won't work.
Exactly. Exactly. And then you're out of business. Then, 15, 20, $30,000 later, you're out of business, and that's a shame. That's a crime. So one of the enemies is the marketers out there that are just not telling people the truth about how to effectively market.
Yeah, and what's interesting is you find that just like any other business, the people who are professional marketers a lot of times are tacticians in their space, right? I am a
Yeah.
Facebook ads expert. And so they
Yeah.
can run really good Facebook ads, right? And they probably are good at it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a business. But they're not the you have to come to them with your message already in
Correct.
place in order for them to do good
Correct.
work, right? And that's just an example, and there are probably plenty of Facebook marketers out there who are capable of helping you with your message, but it's
100%.
up to you as a business owner to know that that's going to be a thing that's going to happen. And it's not just Facebook, it's any brand of marketing, whether it's Google ads or putting billboards out. Most people who are doing those businesses are tacticians in that space,
Correct.
right? So you have to bring your message to them, and then they can help you
Correct. They don't
amplify
have
it.
the magic pill. Unfortunately, a lot of folks are looking for the magic pill, the marketing pill. If I just market it, it'll work. But you're exactly right. Uh, there's pre-work to be done.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of that has to do with figuring out who you serve and what you do for them. And I think my next question drives into that a little bit, which is your driving force. So, if the flip side of your common enemy is something you fight against, your driving force is what you fight for. Right. So, just like Spider Man fights to save New York, or Batman fights to save Gotham, or Google fights to index and categorize all the world's information, whether or not we like that might be a different question entirely. Um, but what is it that you fight for in your business? What is your mission, your message, so to speak?
I fight for humanity. I am fighting to bring humanity back to business. Uh, I'm fighting for us to be real and honest in our businesses because professionalism is killing us. It's a poison. Professionalism is a poison. Having these two separate lives, having a business life and a personal life that are not the same, one of them is a lie. You're lying to your family, you're lying to your clients, or both, right? So I'm for humanity. That is really what I'm bringing back to business, and for two reasons. One, humanity is easier. It's easier just to tell the truth. It's easier just to show up as yourself. That's one. But even more importantly, number two, it's more profitable. It's 100. People today are dying for authenticity. They're dying to be told the truth. They're saying, please, Josh, tell me the truth. Don't be an asshole about it. Like, you don't have to shame me or judge me or anything like that, but please tell me the truth. I'm tired of being lied to. I'm tired of trying to do things that aren't working. I'm tired of marketing and it's not working. I'm tired of going to these networking events and I can't seem to get anyone to sit down and listen to me for 2 seconds. I'm just tired. Tell me what I need to do. Help me, please. Empathize with me. Please help me along my journey. So those are two really good reasons to really bring your humanity back to business. And that's what I stand for. That's my purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know in my company, the more we have worked on figuring out how to talk to people, the
Yeah.
faster we have grown, right? Because it's not about so it makes sense to me in my head this way, where like I mentioned, we have our my agency, and I used to try and think of my agency as like this bigger business, because it is a bigger
Yeah.
business, right? There's more people, there's other things involved, but really it's how do I make the big business personal, right? How do we have, you know, the individuals who are there who are working with our clients, right? And you mentioned you were a personal brand concierge, right? And we started talking about like our we don't have project managers anymore. We have a customer, client concierge.
Yeah.
And everything we're doing is trying to figure out how to bring it down to the hey, it's you and me across the table working together. Doesn't really matter where the person is in our business. If it's me at the top or the people who are making up the organization, it's figuring out how to do that, how to bring the humanity back to the business, which is um, it's it's not nearly as hard as I thought it was going to be. because that's what people want.
It is. It is. And they tell us in business school that business and emotions don't mix. And yet here we are, we're all human beings. So I think it's about giving people permission to be themselves. People right now in corporate America, they don't feel like they have permission to be themselves. They feel like they have to put on a facade. There's this ego shield. There's this, I have to say a certain thing, look a certain way, play the politics. If you can get rid of that, if you can dissolve all that false expectation and give people permission just to be themselves, you're going to be off to the races. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the
And
key.
I think one of the best things to have come out of our whole global pandemic situation is a lot of that has started to go away because everyone the whole work from home thing where like I'm going to get interrupted by my
Mhm.
2-year-old. Like it's going to happen.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
no way
And
around
don't be
that. It's
ashamed
going
by
to
it.
happen.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
not be ashamed by that. And now it's to the point where like all of my clients have met all of my children, right? And they're excited when we get interrupted by the 2-year-old and that kind of stuff because it's it's part of real life, right? And instead of hiding real life and we have like you said our personal life that nobody gets to know about or see and our business life, we've sort of been forced to blend them together a little bit. And I think we're going to see the benefits to that for years to come.
100%. Everybody, all my clients know my 18-year-old Murray when he sits on my lap. He's a cat, by the way. So sorry, I should probably say that.
Oh, that's funny. My yeah, I don't have a cat. I do have a dog who regularly comes in and tries to. He's asleep right next to me here, but he'll
Oh,
come up sometimes and just like I'm ready for attention and bonk you in the middle of something. You're like, that's just what I needed in this meeting is a snot stamp from a
yes,
dog.
yes.
So,
Thank you very much. But it's all right. It keeps us humble,
uh,
right? Keeps us happy.
absolutely. Which, by the way, I don't. I was asking my wife this question. I'm curious if you know the answer. Dogs' noses are wet. And I'm like, if it's not snot, what is it? Because as far as I'm concerned, when he bonks me with his wet nose, it's a snot stamp.
That's a good question. I think they lick their nose a lot to keep it moist, but I don't know if is it snot or
That's
that's a
why I
good
don't
question.
know. And I was like, I'm just gonna go with snot stamp. That's what it is when they bonk you with their cold wet nose. It's a snot stamp from a dog.
How about we just call it a love tap.
A love tap. Probably.
Yeah.
That's what he is. I mean, they're if you've ever watched what's that comedian Michael McIntyre, the 5-star love dog. If you look that up on YouTube, it's hilarious. That's my dog. He's a 5-star love
I'll
dog.
have to see that.
And
Okay.
so I want to switch gears a little bit and talk something very practical, right? And talk about the hero's tool belt. Just like every superhero has a big, a belt with their awesome gadgets, like their batarangs or their web slingers or their magical spinning hammers or laser eyes or whatever. I'm going to talk about the top 1 or 2 tools that you couldn't live without in your business. Could be anything from your calendar to your notepad, to your marketing tools that you use, or something that you do for that you've created, like your own process for product delivery. Something that you couldn't do is essential, or sorry, something that is essential to you getting your job done.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about productivity first. Honestly, calendar, time blocking. Time blocking has been one of the best things I've ever done. I teach all my clients time blocking as well. Here's the key though. The key to time blocking is you got to schedule in not just your work responsibilities, but you got to schedule in fun. That is the
Yeah,
key because if it's only
absolutely.
work, you're not going to want to look at your calendar. You're going to ignore it. You're going to hate it. But if you schedule in fun and fun becomes a reward for getting your work done because you're fitting all your things into your time blocks, all of a sudden you're like, you love it. And then you look back and you're like, holy crap, I actually got everything done today. I actually moved forward. I moved the needle like we were talking about. So time blocking and I use Google Calendar, but I'm sure there's other apps and other ways to do it. That's just been a godsend for me, honestly, in my productivity
No,
and my focus.
so I have a couple of thoughts on that. One,
Yeah,
the time blocking is super valuable. And one of the things I found interesting is I've asked this question to more than 200 guests now on this show. Probably 80% of them have responded their calendar in some form or fashion, which I think is very
yeah,
telling. And so that's an important note. And then the other thing I want to talk about is you mentioned um, getting your work done and then play as a reward. And I want to flip that on its head a little bit because one of the things that I think is a problem with entrepreneurship is we look at life as I will reward myself with rest and recreation when I get my work done. And I have one of the things we talk about on the show all the time is giving yourself permission to play, right? And
Yeah.
the
100%.
reason is you can't show up and do good work if you are not well rested, right? If you're not taking care of yourself. And so we as entrepreneurs all frequently think of, I will accomplish my goal and then I will reward myself with, rest and recreation. And I tell people that what you should do is you should prioritize rest and recreation first, because that will allow you to do good work, to show up and do good work. Um,
Yeah.
and so to flip that a little bit and to realize that, like, I know that was one of the things that I did early on in my, well, I say early on, it was about halfway through my business career when I was struggling and working 18 hours a day. Um, and is I was looking at my life and figuring out, how do I get something done? Right. And I was spinning my wheels because I was always tired and I've never really focused on what I needed to focus on properly. And I read a book called The Ant and the Elephant by Vince Visconti, and he talked about um, essentially how we respond to boundaries, how creativity thrives with boundaries. And I started looking at how can I put boundaries on my time, right? And what if I only work 5 days a week instead of six? And what if I only work
Mhm.
8 hours a day instead of however many I can get? And what I've started to realize is that every time I put restrictions on what I was doing, my productivity went through the roof, right? Which comes down to that time blocking. Essentially, it's a form of time
Yeah.
blocking, and I started
Yeah.
just taking that to the extremes of, like, what if I work, you know, 5 hours a week, 4 hours a day, and instead of 5 days a week, it's 4 days a week. And like I said, I've gotten myself down to, like, I work 4 hours a day, 4 days a week, and run two companies in that time. Um, and that is it's that time blocking with creative restrictions. And then what that forces me, it sort of forces me into this, like, I've changed my mindset on it. It was like, hey, I schedule my business around my recreation, not the
Hmm.
other way around, right? And
Yeah.
so, like, my business comes after my family, it comes after my health and my fitness, and it comes after all of those things. And since I've started doing that, I mentioned this earlier, my business is 5 times larger than it was when I was on the other side of that.
100%.
Right.
And I think I misspoke too when I said as a reward, because with that, when I say time blocking, when you schedule in fun and rest and relaxation and family time, that's not conditional. That's not if you get your work done.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
on the calendar. It has to be done. It's got to be done because you scheduled it. There's no negotiation. It's not like, oh, I didn't get my work done, so I can't have my fun time. I misspoke
yeah,
if I think I said the word reward and I probably shouldn't. But here's another cool benefit of time blocking is, let's say you don't get something done in time or you just goof it, right? Let's just say you totally space it, you goof a time block, you pick it up and you move it to a different time. You don't ever have to forget about it. It never becomes this thing you're carrying in your past, like this burden, like, oh, I never got it done. And now you're depressed and now it affects your other productivity. You just move it. You allow
yeah,
yourself to move it forward in time and it's back on your calendar. So
yeah.
it keeps everything in sight. And that's what I love about it.
I think the other
Um,
thing that is useful to know about time blocking, right? And and to my term, the completion stacking, is you'll get better over time at figuring out what you can accomplish in a given time, right?
yeah.
So when you start out, you're going to be bad at it, and that's
Yep.
okay.
You're gonna be moving a
You're
lot of
gonna
stuff around. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna be moving a lot of stuff around, and you're gonna be like, you know what? I can do the entire floor in an afternoon, and you'll find out, no, you actually can't.
Nope.
And so
No.
you'll get better at looking at what can I actually accomplish in this period of time when you give yourself that grace to move the time blocks, right?
Yeah.
Um,
So along
and
the
so,
same lines too, the other little tool in my kit that I'm it's been fantastic is a morning routine, which kind of fits into the time block idea. But I always start my day with intention. It's a walk. I listen to an audiobook. I have my coffee. I do a breathing exercise. There's certain things I have to do in my morning for me that comes first before anything else, and it's non-negotiable as well. Uh, Affirmations is part of it. So there's things that I think everyone should have a morning routine because how you start your day really dictates how the rest of it's going to go.
yeah, if I don't shower and shave in the morning, my whole day doesn't work, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's got to happen. Helps me get myself into the working order. So
exactly. You
I
get
want to
that
talk a
shower
little bit about,
inspiration, all those thoughts.
yeah, absolutely. I tell people, I tell my wife all the time, my shower is non-negotiable. Like I have to take a shower every morning, or just like I can't show up.
Okay, perfect.
Like I feel dirty. I don't feel like I've started my day well. And sometimes like stuff happens and you're like, I don't get my shower till like, noon or in the afternoon. I'm like, that's when my day starts.
Yeah, exactly.
And now, a quick word from our show's sponsor. Hey there, fellow podcaster. Having a weekly audio and video show on all the major online networks that builds your brand, creates fame, and drives sales for your business doesn't have to be hard. I know it feels that way because you've tried managing your show internally and realize how resource intensive it can be. You felt the pain of pouring 8 to 10 hours of work into just getting 1 hour of content published and promoted all over the place. You see the drain on your resources, but you do it anyways because you know how powerful it is. Heck, you've probably even tried some of those automated solutions and ended up with stuff that makes your brand look cheesy and cheap. That's not helping grow your business. Don't give up though. The struggle ends now. Introducing Push Button Podcasts, a done-for-you service that will help you get your show out every single week without you lifting a finger after you've pushed that stop record button. We handle everything else: uploading, editing, transcribing, writing, research, graphics, publication, and promotion, all done by real humans who know, understand, and care about your brand almost as much as you do. Empowered by our own proprietary technology, our team will let you get back to doing what you love while we handle the rest. Check us out at pushbuttonpodcast.com/hero for 10% off the lifetime of your service with us, and see the power of having an audio and video podcast growing and driving micro celebrity status and business in your niche without you having to lift more than a finger to push that stop record button. Again, that's pushbuttonpodcast.com/hero. See you there. And now, back to the Hero Show.
So I want to talk a little about your own personal heroes, right? So every hero has their mentors, like Frodo had Gandalf, or Luke had Obi-Wan, or Robert Kiyosaki had his rich dad, or even Spider-Man had his Uncle Ben. And I want to talk about who were some of your mentors. Were they real life mentors, speakers, or authors, maybe peers who are a couple of years ahead of you, and how important were they to what you've accomplished so far in your company?
I've had many fantastic mentors. I've been very blessed to have fantastic business mentors. No one that anyone's going to recognize, but as far as public mentors
There is.
or public heroes, Martin Luther King Jr., but not for the reason people think. He's one of my heroes because he had enemies, not people enemies. He had enemies as things. He stood against poverty. He stood against inequality, and I just appreciate that he gave his life for it. So that he's one of my heroes because he had enemies. Bruce Lee is a hero of mine because uh, he understood. He was able to bring Western and Eastern culture together. And I'm each arm I've got secrets of success of Western culture and Eastern culture, one on each arm, because I really believe we can learn a lot from nature. Uh, and I love his focus on never pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. Like just accept
Yeah.
life is not always going to be easy. That doesn't mean you got to become a victim. It means you just got to get better. Um, and then my third
Yeah.
hero would be Abraham Maslow. A lot of folks that he's kind of more of an obscure character of the 20th century, but he was the first psychologist to ask the question, what is right with people, instead of what was wrong with people, which was the common theme. Psychoses, Freud, Jung, they're all looking at why do people do weird things? And he comes along and says, why are happy people happy? And he created this amazing construct, and it's his stuff is fascinating. So there's my
Yeah,
three
I've heard
public
a lot
heroes.
of it. I'll have to look him up. But yeah, I love that, and it's one of the things that I've been fascinated by asking that question so many times now is how very infrequently the heroes are big public figures, right? It's generally mom and dad, or a teacher in grade school that believed in you, and how common that is. And it's always struck me for myself just to remember that, for me, it's like your kids are going to have a hero, and if you're not worthy of it, they're going to pick someone else, right? And so I
That's
always
right.
use that in my own way of thinking, is just how can I show up and be a hero today, right? And for whoever I'm working with, whatever I'm doing, and it's just a mindset. Am I worthy of someone picking me as their hero?
Yes, that's a great mindset. 100%. Um,
Absolutely. So I've only got a couple more questions for you, and one of them is about your guiding principles. And heroes live by a code. For instance, Batman never kills his enemies; he only ever puts them in Arkham Asylum. So as we wrap up here, I'm going to talk about the top 1 or 2 principles that you live your life by. Maybe something you wish you had known when you first started out on your own hero's journey.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Uh, for me, I suppose, wow, something I wish I would have learned. There's a lot of things I wish I would have known when I first started off. I think one of my principles is, and I don't want to say brutally honest, but I want to say honesty from the place of love and compassion. I wish someone would have just told me the
Yeah,
truth. I wish someone would have trusted me enough to handle the truth and to make my own decisions. So I take that approach now. Like, look, you may not like what I have to say, but I promise whatever I share, not only is it going to be the truth, but it's going to be coming from a place of love and care and concern, not from a place of shaming you, not to make you feel bad, not to insult you. Uh, but I think it's so important that we really care enough about someone. I tell people, this might be the first time someone loves you enough to tell you the truth. I
yeah,
think part of love is being honest. Uh, so many people think love is something different, like enabling. Oh, when your brother has an addiction and you don't want to call him out on it, you're like, I just love him, but I don't want to upset him. There's a difference between being polite and being nice. It's polite not to bring up his drug addiction, but the nice thing to do is to get him help. The nice thing to do is to
yeah,
stage an intervention and do the right frickin' thing because it's right, which I say is another one of my principles. Do the right thing, not because it's easy, not because it makes you look good, not because it's profitable. Do it because it's frickin' the right thing to do. And
yeah,
everybody, I'm going to make this bold claim, everyone knows what the right thing is. It's the golden rule, the
yeah,
platinum
absolutely.
rule. You know what the right thing is. When you look at that dude across the street, you know what the right thing to do for him is, because if that was your mom, what would you do? If he's being attacked, and should you look the other way if that was your mom? No? Then don't look the other way when it happens to some stranger.
Yeah,
So
and I
those are
have
a couple principles.
a personal experience along those same lines. I had a longtime client and good friend who got himself into some drug and alcohol addictions that he had struggled with as a kid and got back into them as an entrepreneur, and made some very poor decisions that included defrauding some of his clients. And I remember
Mm.
at one point he asked me, he's like, "Hey, can you cover for me?" And I was like, "I can't." And I was like, I'm what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn you into the police.
Yeah,
And I was like, because I love you and I care about you,
exactly.
right? Because that's what needs to happen. And I remember it was 2 or 3 years later after he served his time and got everything fixed and put his life back in order. He called me up and he was like, "That's one of the best things anyone's ever done for me." And he's like, "So I
Bingo.
appreciate that."
Exactly.
But it's uh, you know, that's how you love someone.
Yes. And it's not easy, right? That could not have
No,
been easy to turn him in.
no, not at all. Um, Yeah, it was rough too because like I helped build all the systems that he was using in his business that he had then started doing illegal things with. And so like when the cops called, they were like, "What do you have?" And I was like, "I've got access to everything. I built it all."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do you need? But yeah, that's a rough
So
rough place to be.
it is. It is. But what you're talking about, what we're talking about is courage. That takes courage. It takes courage to do the right thing. It takes courage to love someone that much, to do the right thing for them. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's a cool place to wrap our interview on a note about courage. But I do finish every interview with a challenge, right? I call this the Heroes Challenge, and I do this to help get access to people I might not otherwise find, because not everyone is out doing the podcast rounds like you and I do. So the question is simple: do you have someone in your life or in your network that you think has a cool entrepreneurial story? Who are they? First names are fine, and why do you think they should come share their story with our audience here
Hmm.
on the Hero Show? The first person that comes to mind for you.
Yeah. First person that comes to mind is a guy named Scott, and he was working on something actually called Hero to You. He's a psychologist by trade, but he has this passion for helping people also find that superpower. And I don't know, he just came to mind, partly because he's also like my
Awesome.
doppelganger. Literally, people think we're brothers, even though we're not.
That's funny.
So he's the first person that comes to mind. He's such a empathetic and heartfelt person. He's such a good good dude, and I just love to see him succeed.
Absolutely. So we'll reach out later and see if we can get an introduction to him and maybe bring him on the show. They don't always say yes, but when they do, we get good interviews out of them and good stories. So um, in comic books, there's always the crowd of people who are clapping and cheering for the works of heroics. So as we close, I want to know where can people find you if they want your help? Where can they light up the bat signal, so to speak? And more importantly, who are the right types of people to light up the bat signal and say, "Hey, Josh, I would like your help establishing my personal brand."
Absolutely. Easiest way is my website, which is joshzepess.com. Also on social media, I'm the only Josh Zepess out there. I'm the only identity archaeologist out there. So everything I have out there is public. And if you want to get to know more about my thoughts on personal branding, I do a signature talk. It's a webinar. You can go to personalbrandwebinar.com and find the next time I do a live version or watch a replay on it. And really, the person I'm talking to is the one stuck in the sea of sameness. That solopreneur, that talented professional that they have a gift. They know they have a gift, but they're unable to get noticed because they're trying to shout over the crowd. It's too noisy and their message isn't clear enough. That's the person I just love helping them shine. I want them to go from shy to shine because in business, shy equals broke, and we don't want anyone staying shy or being the best kept secret. It's time to shine.
Absolutely, and I love that. And I know one of the things that really helped me, because I'm a shy, introverted person naturally, was realizing that doesn't mean you can't interact with people. It just
Correct.
means you need to build in the time to recharge afterwards, right?
That's it.
Because your extroverted people, they get energy from being out and with people. Introverted people, it saps their energy. So you just need to know where your limits are, know how to build time in to recharge afterwards, and then you can go out and shine and to give your value and interact with people. You don't have to be shy. So anyways, I love that. And so just to finish that off, it's joshzepess.com. Is that the right place?
That's correct. Yes.
And the personal brand archaeologist. If you are listening to this and you don't know what your message is clearly, take the time to reach out to Josh. I think it's one of the most important things for your business. Personally, you could probably tell we've got a lot in common about that about personal branding and how important it is. So definitely take
Oh
the
yeah.
time to reach out and talk to him. Josh, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story with us. It was fascinating. Do
Thank
you
you for
have
having
any
me. I
final
really appreciate it.
you have any final words of wisdom for our audience before we hit this stop record button?
Yeah, let's go back to the start dirty. Let that be the final one. Like whatever you're thinking about doing, just start doing it and take a small immediate action today. In fact,
Yeah.
within the next hour, whatever set something in your mind that says some intention that you want to accomplish, some goal, and take immediate action. What's the smallest thing I could do to move a millimeter forward? Right? Whatever it is, take some immediate action, and I guarantee you that's going to start the momentum, and momentum is magic.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think momentum is magic is a great place to leave the interview. So thank you very much, Josh.